increase an increase of 0.007374. The average homestead taxable value for 2021 was $218,776. In 2022, $243,624, which is an increase of $24,848 or 11.36%. This means that the tax on the average homestead for 2021 was $925. For 2022, it's $1,048, which is an increase of $123. So the proposed tax rate is 0.430174.
Anybody have any questions or comments? This is a hearing, we can have it from the audience too. Okay, if we have none, we're moving to 6B, vote on setting the salary, expenses, and other allowances of elected county or precinct officers of Local Government Code 152.013.
Judge, the proposed salaries and all expenses for elected officials were provided in the proposed budget and sent to all elected officials on August the 12th. The notice of publication that went into the Wilson County News was on August the 10th. Wilson County is proposing a $2 per hour increase for all elected officials. And so there should be a motion in it.
This says there's a vote on setting this, so
I'll make a motion to set the salary, expenses, and other allowances of elected county or precinct officers as presented by the county auditor.
Second.
motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Perdola. Are you able to hear all this, Commissioner Wiley?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more comments? Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and any opposed? Of course, there is none left, so this passes. Okay, now, we're going to agenda item 6C, adopt the budget for 2022 and 2023 by local government code 111.008. And, okay, go ahead.
Okay, Judge. A budget hearing was held on August the 22nd. There were 3 adjustments made to the proposed budget. One was in the collection facility, one was in the general liability insurance, and one was an adjustment made for JP1. You have the final proposed budget in front of you for your consideration of adoption.
Okay. You said we had somebody that had a public comment this time?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So, I'll entertain a motion to adopt it.
I'll make a motion that we,
Go ahead.
What is,
That's for the tax rate.
oh, the tax rate, okay.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we adopt the budget as proposed for the 2022, 2023 year.
Second.
Well, you beat him, Gary. Okay, motion by Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Martin, and we adopt the budget as presented for the year 2022 and 2023. Is there any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries, that's unanimous. Okay, now we're going to 6D, vote to ratify the property tax increase, local government code 111.008C.
Judge, per HB 3195, this budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $1,552,785, which is an 8.5854 increase from last year's budget. And of that amount, $708,534.67 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year.
So Wilson County is still growing by leaps and bounds.
How much is it of the new?
$708,534.67 is tax revenue to be raised from new property
New
tax.
property.
Judge, I make a motion to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, this is when you wanted to make your comment? Okay, go ahead and you have a,
Yes, I think that she.
or introduce
signed in,
yourself and
but
go
she
ahead.
just didn't come.
My name is Ann Mardick, and I've been a resident of Floresville since 2015. I just wanted to ask if you would consider holding on the tax rate again this year. But that's basically all my comment is. I understand that we do have expenses that we do need to pay for, but I just wanted to ask you to consider holding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can talk about this, so in holding to, Mr. Vino, a while ago, you said how much it was difference between last year and this year's, which is less than 1%. So we did pretty good on staying with that,
I
and,
understand that,
and
and that's why I just wanted to make the comment.
okay.
It is,
We got it as close as we could, so.
We would always like to lower the taxes if we could, but unfortunately with the growth in Wilson County that we're seeing now, unfortunately, we can't cover all of the things that we're needing to do for the new people, so it's pretty tough.
understood.
And the price of material and fuel is just tripled more on us. I know the sheriff needs more help. His fuel price is just, like road and bridge is just tripled, and
My fuel budget last year was 50,000. I bumped it to 100,000 this year, and I don't know if that's gonna cover it.
Probably not.
And that affects everything, fuel does. Like, the sheriff's office, big time, and the material, we're gonna be discussing that in a minute. And it affects on how much the material costs, how much it costs us to get it
Well,
here.
an 18-wheeler load of road tar has gone from 8,000 to right at 14,000, almost doubled this year. So that's gonna put a huge crimp in our road fixing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Need to ratify the property tax increase.
Judge, I make a motion that we approve ratifying the property tax increase.
Second.
Motion by. Jeffrey beat you, Commissioner Perdola beat you to it, I'm sorry. That's all right. That's okay. Motion by Commissioner Fowler, second by Commissioner Perdola, that we ratify the property tax increase pursuant to local government code 111.008C. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous, so this passes. Okay.
Judge,
Yes.
I missed, just to announce that the total net outstanding bond debt on October 1, 2022 will be $5,428,350.
Okay, thank you, it's in here, I was reading it, so.
Yeah, I know, I meant to announce.
Okay, which is whittling down. Okay, and I think there may be an opportunity to refinance soon, so that could help also. Okay, moving along to 6E, vote to set the 2022 tax rate. E1, M&O rate for 2022, the rate is .4174, and E2, the INS 2022 tax rate is .01227. And added together, that is .43017.
Judge, I make a motion that, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of .43017, which is affected and 11.50% increase in the no new revenue tax rate and a 1.74% increase in the 2021 property tax rate.
And I believe you have to take two separate votes, one for the M&O and one for the INS.
Okay, and that's for the M&O?
Yes.
Okay, this is for the M&O. Have a second, Commissioner Wiley?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Fowle, second, and you can write that down there, or I will. Second by Commissioner Wiley, that we approve the M&O rate, which is .4174. Is there any more discussion? Comments, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, so that's unanimous. Motion carries, and now we're setting E2, the INS 2022 tax rate, which you'll go ahead, as you've already read it off,
Read it.
so, which is .01227.
227 or 277?
277, excuse me, you're right,
01277.
yeah. My eyes got
Do we need
crossed.
another motion on that?
Yes.
Yes, a separate motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the INS 2022 tax rate of the .01277.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Martin, and we approve the INS rate of .01277.
There you go.
Any more questions or comments or discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. So we have passed our new tax rates and the budget. Thank you. Okay, so. Thank you. Okay. You still with us, Commissioner Wiley?
I'm still here.
Good deal. Okay, we're gonna move back up to agenda item. Okay, we didn't get any public comments a while ago. I guess we still have none?
We had the one judge and that was.
Okay, so we're moving to agenda item number 4, certificates of completion and awards. Okay. Okay. Certificate of training. This is to certify that Olga Marrero, Rose Labus, Rose Pruski, and Sarah Pettis have successfully completed the cybersecurity awareness training program requirement for year 2023 Texas Cybersecurity Course, House Bill 3834, 1 hour. So this is, okay, and here's another certificate of attendance. This is to certify that Olga Marrero, Sarah Pettis, and Rose Pruski have successfully completed 21 hours of professional education and development by attending the 40th Annual Election Law Seminar for County Election Officials conducted by the Texas Secretary of State, August 1st through 3rd, 2023 in Austin, Texas. Kenneth Ingram, Elections Director. We've got that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next is extension activity handouts. Has everybody reviewed them? See anybody here? Anybody have any questions or comments? So, moving right along. Okay, we've already on agenda item 6, so we're going to agenda item 7. Gary Martin, Commissioner Precinct 1, discuss and take action on appointing Felito Rodriguez to the ESD 2 Board of Commissioners.
Yes, so fellow commissioners and Judge, I interviewed another candidate for the position of ESD 2 Commissioner last week. I met with her Friday and discussed this with Commissioner Wiley. And so without further ado, I wish to make a motion to appoint Felita Rodriguez to the ESD 2 Board of Commissioners.
Second,
And I'll second that motion.
sorry.
Okay, so we got Commissioner Martin made the motion, Commissioner Wiley made the second to appoint Felita Rodriguez as a commissioner on ESD 2 board. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And she had
Okay,
hoped
it's
to be
unanimous,
here
motion
this morning,
carries.
but she had a conflict, so she will be in Friday to get sworn in.
Yeah, she's going to stop by the office and get sworn in. Okay, so we've got Ms. Rodriguez appointed. Okay, here we go again. Agenda item number 8, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, Brenda Trevino County Auditor, discuss and possible action related to the following bids. A, material hauling, material plus hauling. B, fuel. C, towing. D, lawn maintenance services.
Judge, we went out for proposals for each of those items. We are scheduled to discuss and possibly award if, and we'll start with material hauling, or did y'all want to start with the fuel, I guess, discussion first?
Either one.
Sure.
You don't matter.
Okay, we can discuss the fuel. So, as you mentioned earlier, the prices for material and fuel were astronomical. So, I believe there's some discussion on the, what we want to propose we do with the fuel, with the vendors who submitted proposals for the fuel.
Fuel bids are based off the
Rack.
rack charge, right? Yeah.
Correct.
So plus whatever their markup is, right? And I don't think they were any different than they were last year, right?
No, sir.
No, I mean, I'm good with the fuel.
I'll make a motion that we approve both fuel prices, because I know precinct 4 uses,
Mid-Tex.
yeah.
Mid-Tex.
Mid-Tex, I believe.
Commissioner Wiley, are you going to use Midtex
Yes,
again?
Yes, and I'm pleased with them. I do not want to change.
Okay. And I'll make a motion that we approve John's All and Medtech for fuel.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Fowle, second by Commissioner Perdola that we, for the fuel, that we use John's Oil and Midtex.
Okay. And on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We just need to take a vote unless you had something. you
Oh,
wanted.
no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What's that?
She didn't have anything.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, motion carries. So we have fuel taken care of. Now, do we want to go back to materials and hauling, or we want to go to?
We can, and there was some discussion on the material and hauling because it's hard for those vendors to predict what the prices are going to be 12 months from now or within the next 12 months. A suggestion was made that we consider doing an addendum to the bid packet where we contact each of the vendors who submitted pricing and ask for their consideration of giving us pricing for a 3-month contract, and then we would revisit it again in January in hope that they may be able to reduce some of their pricing and give us a little bit more accurate pricing. And if that's something that the court wishes to do, then my office would contact each of the vendors who submitted a proposal, send them the addendum, and ask if they would like to resubmit any pricing. And if so, then we would give them enough time to resubmit pricing and then bring it back to the court for review.
And I realize that's trouble for y'all to do that, but in consideration of what the pricing has done,
Yeah,
I think it'd be a good idea.
gasoline has come down.
right.
Diesel hasn't, but gasoline has, so hopes that maybe our road tar that we use to do our paving and stuff will come down because it took such a dramatic increase.
Well, the other suggestion I have would be to structure that contract kind of the same way the fuel is base it off the rack charge so that you have like a base bid and then you get a fuel surcharge as price fluctuates. And as of today, I mean, excuse me, the only problem I have with awarding it is this was bid back in, basically on June or July's fuel prices. And so if we do this for 3 months, we're really paying more for fuel than we should. I think we need to ask the auditor's office to go back and ask them to give us a base fuel price and tell them we'll use the fuel surcharge sheet, which right now today sits.
Well, we're talking about material and hauling,
Right,
so I don't know what they base that road tar off of.
right. And that one we'll have to look at is the bid that we
Fuel,
got from
I'm
Ergon.
good with the fuel using the rack price and
Yeah.
Road,
Going
the
there,
road
but-
tar is a residual from oil too, so it's probably will affect it.
Yeah, we just need to probably have a conversation. You get yours from Ergon?
yes.
Yeah,
I
we
do.
probably just need to have a conversation with them. And that way, it's fair to everybody. As the price goes up, we cover that cost. If the price goes down, then we benefit by the price going down. I think if we award right now, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot because it was based off of fuel prices,
Sure.
that were a lot higher than they are today.
I just hate to lock it in at 12 months because
Right, no, unless we can do it.
it may be good for us and it may not. I don't know what it's going to look like in 12 months.
And then some of the material prices are so much different too.
Yes.
Lower than the rest of the material, other companies. And I like to see,
Unusual times- I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, these are unusual times, and they sometimes require unusual measures to make it work.
Yes.
Would we need to rebid, or can you just go back and do an addendum?
We can do an
Either way.
addendum. If we go back out for proposal, we would have to go through the entire
Right.
process again. So I would recommend we just do an addendum unless you feel that there are other contractors that, but I think everyone who did submit a proposal were all of the existing ones, so.
At least they will know that we're looking at the prices and we're concerned.
Correct.
Yeah, and we want to work with them. I mean, like I
Yes.
said, if the price goes up, we should cover that. If it goes down, we should reap the benefit of it too.
Yes. Not where we're not just locked in at a high cost.
would that give enough time before the original contract runs out? I mean, do we have enough time to?
We got a couple of.
Yeah, if we can get them to submit and you award by the September 20, our next court date, then that should be sufficient enough because I believe their contract runs through September 30th.
Since we said we were going to award bids today, I guess we need to reject these bids for the addendum?
Yeah, I
It's
guess
on
so.
hold or what?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know if I guess it would be reject.
Well, if we're going to do an addendum, I don't think that's rejecting. That's a modification.
No, you wouldn't reject them if you're going to do an addendum.
Yeah. Okay, let
Maybe
me,
just make the motion to do an
Yeah.
addendum.
so let me give this a shot. I'd like to make a motion to have the auditor's office send down an addendum to the bidders of record for material hauling and material plus hauling to obtain pricing for a fixed rate with a fuel surcharge.
For a 3-month contract
No, for the year,
for the year.
for the
You
year.
don't want to do a 3-month deal?
No. Till we get through this fuel thing, why would you'd have to do it again in 3 months? And by doing the fuel surcharge, they're giving us a base price, and if there's increase over a certain amount of the fuel, then that surcharge would kick in, and that's how they would be compensated. When the price goes up, we pay more. When the price goes down, we pay less. I think if you look at the material cost, it didn't change that much. Some did.
Some did,
Depends
it
on
did.
which bidder you're talking about, but,
which is the asphalt and your hot mix coal
yeah,
changed.
those,
Went up
because they're oil-based
$20.
products.
Yeah, they went up $20 a ton,
Yeah.
so. We just have to see what the bidders say. They may, they may say no,
I'm sure they're going to want the business though.
yeah. But you never know.
Okay. Can you repeat what you?
Can I repeat what I just said? I think so. I'll make a motion to have the auditor's office submitted addendum to the bidders of record for material hauling and material plus hauling to obtain a base charge plus using a truck fuel surcharge that the county will provide to them for what that surcharge is, and obtain those prices hopefully by September, what is it, 25th?
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes, sir.
were you able to hear that?
Yes, I was.
Okay, good. Is anybody, do you have a comment, or does anybody have a comment?
I'll second it.
Okay. We got a motion by Commissioner Martin and a second by Commissioner Perdola. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So
Aye.
it's going to be put back on bids for bid on material and then a surcharge for the.
We'll try to get something out today so that by the 26th is the date of the next Commissioners Court. So we should have something to present by then.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along to 8C towing.
So it was recommended by the sheriff, and I can turn this over to the sheriff to discuss the towing, that we reject any bids for the, that were submitted for towing, and I'll let Sheriff talk.
The first reason for rejection, from my opinion, would be that we only got one bid from a company that doesn't even exist in this county, we know nothing about. The second bid is that since the bids were closed, I have been approached by other vendors that are interested. And I've also talked to the county attorney, and he's researching a different option other than the bid process for the tow. And while he's researching that, I think he's gonna come up with some kind of towing agreement that any company could, agree to. And I would bring that, once he has that in place, I'd bring that back to y'all, for approval.
So it'll be back like a rotation?
Yes, sir.
But if they're on the rotation, they have to agree to what
To
terms?
our, yes, to our requirements, yes, sir.
And I think this also gave the flexibility to the sheriff to either accept or deny a service charge for towing. It's my understanding years past, that's why we went to going out for bid for towing, because we were getting charged these crazy, crazy rates. But, you know, with the sheriff's oversight of, and being able to contact different vendors to get the best price for the county, I think that is definitely a benefit, so.
I'm good with that, especially with the oversight.
I am too.
If somebody gets carried away, I just have one question, because it's happened before. If you call one record service and they don't show up in a,
Reasonable amount of time.
yes,
That will be in the agreement drafted, that there will be restrictions and penalties for not fulfilling their requirements, whether it be moved to the bottom of the list and not called till everybody else is called, or possibly temporary suspension or whatever. But that's what county attorney's working on, is how that
That's
would all
good.
be drafted. But yeah, it would all be in that agreement so that they would understand from the get-go that this is what you're required to do.
it sounds good to me.
It was quite a mess before, but I think that with the oversight of our sheriff, that could be a good approach. We were having difficulties because, and I think you just mentioned it, that someone would be in a rotation, they try to call them, they wouldn't respond, they'd call the next person, and then you'd end up with two towing services there. But I think with the oversight of the sheriff, the new plan would be fine. That's my input.
Okay, so, not accept any of the towing?
I make a motion to reject the towing bids.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Fowler, we reject the towing bids. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay, now we're moving right along to 8D, lawn maintenance services.
Judge, after review, and we sent you all the bid tabulations, Bear Landscaping is our current vendor, and they came in with the lowest and best pricing. So I think Commissioner File has been overseeing that, and I don't know if he has any comments on their
No, they're doing
services,
a
but-
good job, as far as I'm concerned.
Have they included the precinct 3?
Yes, I was gonna ask that question. You wanna add that,
Absolutely.
JP 3?
Yes, somebody's been doing it. I don't know who's been doing it, but somebody's been
We
doing it.
need to add that to the contract.
And they have already provided pricing for additional services, so we can just make sure and add that one on as well.
I'll make a motion, Judge, that we award Bear Lawn Service for another contract.
And that's with the
Lauren,
addition of
JP3.
JP3's
Have the
office.
JP3 office do that?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner File, second by Commissioner Perdola, that we accept the bid from Bear Landscaping with the addition of JP3's office in Livonia. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous again, motion carries, okay. Okay, moving right along to agenda item number 9. Richard L. Jackson County Judge, discuss and take action on donating $1,000 to Community Council of South Central Texas, is what it should say. Reserve Fund for support of Wilson County residents. Mr. Dyke, would you like to?
Thank you, thank you, Judge Jackson and Commissioners, for adding our request to your agenda. I'm Bobby Dyke, Executive Director for Community Council of South Central Texas, and today Betty Hernandez is Judge Jackson's appointee to our board, and she's served as our president for a number of years. Alma Adames is our grant writer and has kind of taken the lead on reaching out to not only local governmental entities, but also private business and industry to try to raise the funds for the for reserve. And then we have Nina Ruiz. She is our county coordinator here in Wilson County, serving low-income families. This came about with recently there's been more opportunity to increase services to low-income clients, but those opportunities come in the form of reimbursement contracts, meaning CCSCT, through our line of credit, provide the funds monthly, and then we submit our reports to the funding source, and we are reimbursed, and then we pay that line of credit down. The issue is interest on a line of credit or any other loan is not an allowable expense through these grants. So since 2020, we've managed the Veterans Assistance Program, providing general services to veterans. We're currently funded $150,000 a year for that particular grant. And then more recently, we were awarded an emergency rental assistance program in the amount of $3.2 million over a 2-year period, which basically addresses people that are homeless or in danger of being homeless, to assist them with emergency rental, either temporary housing in a hotel for 30 days or a campground that has cabins, and then also helping with deposits. To date, we've raised $12,000 through, and the largest sum of that came recently through Union Pacific Railroad, funded us at $8,000. And so the other $4,000 has come from, I believe, Walmart and another source. So our goal initially was $14,000. But now that we see these opportunities, we would like to build a reserve fund so we can help residents in our counties, low-income residents, and take advantage of this funding. So that's the reason for our request. And I did bring with me, so y'all can get an idea of the amount of service that we've delivered here in Wilson County since 2020.
I'd like to make a comment. And Mr. Dykey here, a couple of years ago, years ago, Betty, when we were young, there was a Head Start program in Stockdale. I know it was all over Wilson County, and
Yes,
it
sir.
just kind of went by the wayside. Well, y'all were going to implement it again, and it was going to be in Wilson County. Well, somebody else got the grant, y'all didn't
Yes.
get it, and it's not in Wilson County. And I remember that being a good thing for the low-income children at all of the places. They had a place to go before school and after school.
Yes, yes, sir. That BCFS out of San Antonio was awarded the Head Start program here, and they primarily work with the school districts to provide Head Start services for 3 and 4-year-olds. Our grant application included services for children birth to 5. And at that time, when we applied, there was still in Stockdale, there was federal interest property there that was a Head Start Center years ago. Also here in Floresville, and our hope was to reopen those facilities and expand those Head Start services. But as soon as the opportunity comes around to apply again, we will be applying. But that's why maybe the Head Start program isn't as prominent here, is because of it's basically an agreement with an ISD.
I can add, the BCFS has also taken that grant from not just Wilson but Carnes, but in Stockdale, they do have the 0 to 3-year-old center in Stockdale as a
Okay.
standalone center. But most of BCFS's services partnered with the local ISDs in order to provide those Head Start services within the school districts. So the kids still are being serviced under Head Start. Unfortunately, we don't carry the grant anymore, but we are trying.
But it doesn't go down to infants, and that's what y'all's was gonna,
Well, evidently, they have.
In Stockdale, they
in-
do have.
They do?
So Wilson County residents can utilize the Stockdale Center as long as they're a Wilson County resident. And it is 0 to 3 years old. And then after 3 years old, they get transitioned into the, I'm gonna say public school districts, but it is a Head Start classroom.
yeah. Because I remember back in the day, it provided a lot of young mothers
Right.
opportunity to be able to work.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Nina. I wasn't aware that the center opened.
What does CEAP stand for?
It's our utility assistance program. So it's actually federal money that flows through the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, and then we use those funds to provide utilities, both electric, gas, propane, based on the client's need. Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program is the long name for it.
So y'all seen a major increase since the COVID? I mean, it didn't.
Yes, sir. Both in funding, and I also believe, I don't have the exact numbers, but just what COVID caused with businesses closing, loss of employment, there's a good percentage of people that had never applied for service that now they're in that situation. Some of our emergency rental clients may have been in, had their renting their own place, but then loss of job, those types of things, no longer could afford the rent. So I think we've seen a big effect from COVID.
Judge, I'll make a motion to approve donating $1,000 to the Community Council of South Texas for the support of Wilson County residents.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Perdola. It's the Community Council of South Central Texas. Make that correction. Okay. Did you hear all that, Commissioner Wiley?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Okay, that's unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
For your work.
Appreciate it.
Okay, agenda item number 10, I was told that we're not gonna do that, we're gonna put it off till next week. Do we need to table it or just not take action on it? Eva?
Oh, we're going to table it till the next meeting.
Okay, I have a motion to table 10 because I think the sheriff's gonna get with the constables and maybe change some of the fees because of fuel prices.
Yes, sir. When I seen that last week, of course, last week was a busy week, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was gonna be on the agenda this quick, because I wanted to research everything to make sure that we were, not being undercharging if we needed to in order to, make it worth, our time and effort.
I'll make a motion, Judge, that we table item number 10.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Fowle, second by Commissioner Wiley. We table agenda item number 10 until next meeting, to where we can get some more information on what the fees actually should be. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion, okay, it is unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Rebecca, we're gonna skip you, if you don't mind, where we can get, let's see. Well, actually, no, we can go ahead and do you, because there's nobody here waiting on anything else. Okay, agenda item number 11, Rebecca Scriven, Permits and Development Director. 11A, Utility Permit. 11A1, Permit number 695, Sutherland Springs Water Supply Corporation, Precinct.
It should be
Three.
1.
Should be, yeah, it's not precinct 3.
It's not Precinct 3, it's Precinct 1?
Precinct 1, yeah.
Correct.
Way back in
Okay,
the back corner there, it's right on the line.
So number 1 is your precinct?
Yes.
okay. Blackjack Trail. Okay, is that Blackjack that goes off of 87?
It's
Blackjack Road.
Oh,
This is
okay.
Blackjack
This is
Trail.
Trail, and that's
Okay.
where the
Yeah,
confusion
that's where we got-
initially
that's where they got
rose, yeah.
confused.
Okay, review and approve, so we'll have to do that one separate from the other one. Okay,
All right, for Blackjack Trail, it's a typical 2-inch casing with a 1-inch service line to a property. They're proposing to bore.
just what's that now?
They're boring under the road in a 2-inch casing and a 1-inch line to service a property, a private property.
I'll make a motion to approve permit 695 to Sutherland Springs Water Supply Corporation. Trail.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Perdola. We approve permit number 695. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, unanimous, motion carries. Okay. Moving right along, 11A2, permit number 696, Sutherland, is this right? Sutherland Springs Water Supply Corporation, Precinct 3?
Yes.
Okay, Quail Run, review and approve.
What it run is me.
This one is also, they're proposing to bore for a 2-inch casing and a 1-inch line for a private piece of property.
Hidden Deer, Rebecca, is that in the old Lake Valley?
Yes,
That's where Hidden Deer is.
yes, sir.
I noticed they just built a new house there at the corner of Hidden Deer, and I guess you'd call it the end of Quail Run. It's actually in the old Lake Valley. I will make a motion that we approve permit number 696 for Sutherland Springs Water Supply Corporation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Fowle. We approve permit number 696. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous, motion carries.
May I ask a question? Whatever happened with the permit on County Road 342 where they were going to cut across the road and I told them I didn't want them to cut the road?
Right, that one is still on hold.
You can tell them that we preferred that they would bore.
I reached out to them and requested that, or let them know that you would prefer them to bore. They haven't heard from them yet, and I am reaching out this week since it has been a couple weeks. And also, I reached out to the county attorney as well to confirm that that is an option. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to 11B, subdivision, Rabbit Hill School subdivision, B1, review and approve final plat, discuss and take action. What is Rabbit Hill subdivision?
536.
Wait.
Looks like it's upside down to me.
I can't get close and like set it all up pretty. All right, so Rabbit Hill Schools subdivision is way out on 536. They've met all of the requirements and received a favorable recommendation from the Wilson County Development Review Committee.
Bless you.
I'll make a motion to approve the Rabbit Hill School subdivision plat, final plat.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Perdola. We approve the Rabbit Hill School subdivision plat. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Of course, there is, that's unanimous, motion carries. Okay. Just out of curiosity, was there a Rabbit Hill School?
Yes.
In Wilson County? 'Cause we had
Actually on lot 4.
100 and something schools
Left
here.
of it. No, it was public.
Did you say
Years and years ago.
some schools around the county?
Over 100. Yes.
The Camp School, there used to be a Durlock School, there used to be, schools everywhere.
Yep. And then we went to the Wilson County Consolidated School District.
Commissioner Wiley, since you voted on this, you got to stop by the office to sign it sometime.
They was going even in Fairview, I think.
Well, Rebecca's shaking her head, but that's
Yes, sir.
okay. Okay, we're moving right along to 11C, subdivision Cibolo Ridge Unit 3, C1, discuss and take action on release of letter of credit.
Yes, this letter of credit for Cibolo Ridge Unit 3 is the one for the drainage damage that was happening. It's not the original letter of credit for the subdivision. It's been reviewed by CEC, and they recommend approval. And Commissioner Perdola, if you would like to speak on
They
it.
have completed everything that I asked them to do. They corrected all of the deficiencies in the drainage and the vegetation. Came in and sprayed in some of the spraying grass, and I actually watered it to make sure that it did grow and come up, and we got good coverage in all of the bar ditches and the drainage areas. They even put in some concrete in some areas that we've had some issues where water was coming straight into the road and eroding the edge of the road, so They went in and put concrete in there to turn that water and stop the erosion. So they've met all of the requirements that we asked them to do, including repave half of the back road on Section 3. So I make a motion that we release the $100,000 letter of credit that we held until they made these corrections.
Second.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't mention $100,000, and it is an amended amount, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the original letter of credit was $495,000, and we reduced it to $100,000 and kept that until they made these corrections. So they have completed the task that we asked them to do.
So, motion by Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Martin. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, motion carries. Okay, moving right along to agenda item number 12, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, discuss and take action on allowing the Guadalupe Valley Family Violence Shelter to display flags and signs on the courthouse lawn for Domestic Violence Awareness Month of October. They would like to put some signs and some flags out here for the month of October on the courthouse lawn.
Judge, I make a motion that we allow the Guadalupe Valley Family Violence Shelter to display their flags and signs on the courthouse lawn for the month of October.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Wiley. I just want to make one, they're going to have to do something with them during the Peanut Festival. I guess we'll just make them aware of that. Then once the Peanut Festival's over with, they can put them back up. Because they will probably get,
I was gonna just say, is there a spot they can put them where they can stay? I mean, it'd be nice to have that up during Peanut Festival, I think, if they can.
if they can put it to
Ask
where
them
they,
to coordinate with the
Yeah,
Peanut
if you can give me the
Festival.
contact, I'll get Carolyn to call them.
okay,
Yeah, probably a good idea to have them up, people to see that.
okay, I was just hoping they don't get torn down or anything. Okay, motion by Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Martin, is that correct? Okay.
Or no, it was Commissioner Wiley.
Oh, Commissioner Wiley, excuse me. Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Wiley. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, agenda item 13, Edwin Baker, Fire Marshal, EMC Health and Public Safety, discuss lifting and approve lifting burn ban.
I'm item number 13, that's bad luck. Yeah, right now, we are below what we would normally have our burn ban in effect for. I can tell you in 2 weeks, if we don't get any more rain, we're gonna be right back there. But it'll give, it'll open it up for 2 weeks worth of burning, even though I've been allowing burning. There are people who say there's a burn ban on, so nobody should be burning. And unlike, they're not familiar with our rules and how we do it. Trying to educate some of them, it works, some of them it doesn't. But anyway, my recommendation is we lift it, and if we don't get any rain between now and the next Commissioners Court meeting, we may be putting it right back on. Some of the counties around us have lifted their burn ban, and they're still drier than we are. So we'll just, I'll just have to wait and see. Of course, there have been fires, but none of them have been fires that got away from, wasn't easy to handle like it was before we got the rains.
One thing about it, we didn't have much to burn.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of burning in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I more or less just told everybody they could burn, that we're not gonna do permits, because I didn't want to do 100 permits a day. Since we implemented the burn ban in January the 24th, we've issued somewhere around 250, 300 burn permits. Yeah, and it was getting to where we were getting 100 phone calls a day after the rains, So that's just my recommendation. We lift it for a few weeks, see where we are in 2 weeks, and go from there.
I'll make a motion that we lift the burn ban for now.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perdola, second by Commissioner Martin. We lift the burn ban. Did you hear that, Commissioner Wiley?
I did.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, motion carries. Okay, so we've got the burn ban lifted. Moving right along to agenda item 14, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, Brenda L. Trevino County Auditor, presentation of the FY 21 year-end auditing by Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates.
Judge, I'd like to introduce Debbie Frazier. She is Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates.
Good morning. I'm just going to start going through the report pretty quickly, and if you have any questions, stop me. Feel free to ask questions, and we'll make it through this. So the independent auditor's report is on page 1, and that basically says that after adjustments, your financial statements are fairly stated and materially correct. So that's one of the bound report. We did have 25 journal entries, almost 11 pages, so we did do quite a few adjustments, and I would attribute a lot of that to the conversion process of your software system. On page 4 is the statement of net position, 14, I'm sorry. It's 14 and 15. Now, I think I told you last year that the statement of net position is not necessarily how you budget. It includes accruals, and you typically budget on the modified accrual basis. So the full accrual will give you all your fixed assets or property and equipment, the deferred outflows of resources from your pensions and OPEB, and then it also shows you all of your debt and then your deferred inflows of resources, where you won't see those on the fund statements. So at the end of the year, your total assets were $35,529,041. Of that, you had $20.5 million in cash. You had total deferred outflows of resources of $1,935,931. These are basically prepaids for your TCDRS retirement system. Then you had liabilities of $15.7 million, and of that, almost 6.8 was debt and debt service and leases, and then you had a net pension liability of $2 million. Your deferred inflows of resources are $978,867, and this is basically what you owe TCDRS as of the last calendar year. And then net position is $20,748,173. Of that, you have $12 million that's basically unrestricted. I'm going to skip page 16 and 17 and have you move to page 18 and 19. Now, this is the balance sheet and how you budget.
Can I ask a question? What is the unrestricted net position?
So that's what you have available to spend in the future. On page 18, this is your balance sheet. And this is, like I said, the way you budget. So you don't see any property and equipment, you won't see any debt, you won't see any pension liabilities. And it's called the modified accrual basis. So at the end of the year, you had $23.9 million in total assets, and of that, you had $20.5 million in cash and investments. If you turn to page 20, actually, if you'll turn back to 18, I just want to point out that in your general fund, you had almost $16.7 million in cash and investments, and that included your ARPA funds. On page 20 and 21, these are your liabilities and your fund balances. So at the end of the year, if you don't consider debt and your pension liabilities, you had total liabilities of almost $7 million. The bulk of that is $4.9 million in those ARPA funds, and it's the line right above the 6.9. You had deferred inflows of resources of $2.4 million. That consisted of property tax that has not been collected, not for the current year, but for the past 50 years. basically. And then you had unavailable revenue for your court, and so we didn't recognize $1,187,471. So these are basically people who haven't paid within 60 days after your year end. At the end of the year, you had $14,516,739 in total fund balance. When you look at that number, it's always nice to compare it to, the unassigned fund balance of $10,129,775 that you'll see on the first column on page 20. This is your unassigned fund balance, and this is what you have available to spend next year. And we always look at this number compared to your expenditures in the prior year to tell you how many months of operations you have. If you take out the ARPA funds, you actually have over 6 months of operating expenditures for the next year. On page 23 and 24, I'm going to just go over this briefly because it does have all of your governmental funds. So you brought in total revenues of $24.7 million, and then your expenditures, all your expenditures were $22.5 million. So you had excess revenues over expenditures of $2.2 million. And if you turn the page on 25 and 26, you'll see that your net change in fund balance was $2,207,000, bringing you up from $12.3 million to an ending year or ending balance of $14.5 million. That fund balance does not include your ARPA funds because they were unearned revenue. So I'm going to ask you to turn back to page 53 and 54. This is how you budgeted last year for the general fund and the road and bridge. So the total revenues that you expected to bring in last year were $16,361,062. And then the actual amount that you brought in was $17,526,944. The variance was you brought in over what you budgeted of $1,165,000. If you compare it to last year, you brought in $18,921,000, and that is mainly due to the grants and contributions. So you spent some of your COVID funds in the prior year, or all of your COVID funds in the prior year, and so that raised the grants. So your total expenditures for the year were $15,992,000. Compared to last year, you had about $15,924,000. But you were actually under your budget by $194,203 overall. If you go straight down, you'll see your net changes in fund balance after transferring out funds of $354,000, that you had a positive $1,500,426 net change in fund balance. So you increased that from almost $9 million up to $10 million. On your road and bridge funds, you had total revenues of almost $5 million. You brought in $287,796 more than you budgeted, and you were about $400,000 greater in revenue than you were last year. Your total expenditures were $4,686,000. You were $22,464 under what you budgeted, and your expenditures were about $300,000 less than what you budgeted in the prior, or what you spent in the prior year of $5,031,000. You did increase that fund balance by $310,260, leaving you with a fund balance at the end of the year of $1.1 million. If you can turn the page to page 56, this is your Texas County and District Retirement System, so your net pension liability. And there's some interesting numbers on this page. So first of all, the GFOA recommends that you have over 70% funded for your retirement system. You actually have 93.72% funded, and that's the third number up, the very last column, 2020. You notice you've dropped a little from the prior year of 96.15% funded. If you go up a couple, well, probably halfway to the page, you'll see why. Your net investment income this past year ended 2020 was $2,785,709 compared to 19 of 3.8 million. And you'll look in 2018, you see that you had a loss. Now, these are calculated every December, so your December 31st, 2021 numbers came in, I'm sure, and I'm sure that the investments have probably gone down quite a bit. So you'll expect that 93.72 to go down also, but you are in a very good position. Again, GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, recommends over 70% funding to be very good. Any questions on that? So the other liability that you have on your fund or your full accrual statements is on page 58. And this is your OPEB, or other post-employment benefits, and it's related to your insurance, health insurance. So basically, your total OPEB liability at the end of the year was $592,590. It was up from $510,858 the year before. This number is not funded, so it will continue to rise because it basically is relates to retirees. That's actually all I had on the report. Do you have any questions on that?
I'd just like to make a comment on page 44. The numbers here were kind of shocking to me of inactive employees receiving benefits and inactive employees. How far back do y'all go? How many years?
It's a continual. So anybody, inactive employees receiving benefits, or anybody who's retired and still receiving benefits.
And inactive employees, is that people that,
They've left and they were vested.
okay, but we're not really spending money on those particular,
Well, you will, because if they worked over 5 years, I think that's your vesting schedule. I think that's the.
8.
Is it 8? I'm sorry. So 8 years is your vesting schedule. So anybody who left before, or who had worked over 8 years, still has.
less than 8 years.
That goes back into your system.
So that,
Well, their part doesn't, just what you've spent has.
what you're saying is that's the number of retired employees that are receiving a pension.
That's the inactive employees receiving benefits. The inactive employees are the number of people who have probably left or not retired.
That could be where they passed away, right?
No, they would come off the list, yeah. Yeah,
But you have a spouse or somebody maybe still getting benefit.
so that would be an inactive employee receiving benefits. Mhm. These are employees that have generally left over the period of however long. I mean, that are still in the TCDRS system or who have left the TCDRS system. So I didn't count these numbers. The TCDRS has an external auditor that comes in and performs an actuarial study and an audit. And these numbers come from that report.
I just didn't realize we had that many employees.
Overall, yeah, isn't that,
When you stop and think about it, it's not a big number, but it is, you know, when you.
yeah. So if you had 3 years in the system, your money would basically come back to you, come back to the county, not you, but the employer's portion only, not the employees. And I issued several letters. I didn't know if you had any questions on those or if you wanted me to go over those. But the letters are your material weakness letter and your governance letter.
I would like to go over that.
Okay. The first one is your material weakness and internal controls. Quite a few of or a couple of these were on last year, so they just, did not have the opportunity to be corrected. So the bank recs still weren't performed on a timely manner, or were they being performed accurately? There was no oversight to determine if the reconciliation agreed with the trial balance. The county has several months behind in reconciling its cash. Therefore, they are not able to find data entry errors, bank errors, or fraudulent activity on a timely basis. Generally, the bank only gives you a few months to identify and report fraudulent activities if you expect reimbursement. The county treasurer should reconcile the bank accounts to the general ledger in a timely manner. What kind of is happening, you move to that new system, and so I don't think we understood exactly what was going on, and there's a number up at the top that kind of tells you that you're reconciled or not, and we weren't reconciled. So the responsibility of the county auditor is to audit the reconciliation and tie the balance to the trial balance after the reconciliation is performed.
So, and as you go through each one, have you made recommendations or suggestions to them, or is there something that you need to know or implement?
I think they're in the process of implementing items. We're, as we speak, or before I came up here, I was going through with Kristen and going through the fund balances and trying to find where, after the audit adjustments we made, because it's so late, they have made some corrections as they went, to try to point out where the errors still were. And I believe that they're working with FI to determine a couple things that we don't think are right, like bank-to-bank transfers, and some other issues like that. So yes, I believe they're in the process of fixing this. Because as you see, this is a very late statement.
Well, I guess my concern is we're just about to the end of the year.
Yes, you are.
We're going to be starting this process again, and I'd like to not see them.
Typically, we come in February, or county audits are performed in January and February, so they are done a little later than the regular audits, or city audits, municipal audits. But I believe they're making strides to get these corrected. And we're going to be back on September 20th to have a conversation with FI and the treasurer. And I think I'm going to go over some things with the judge that he can kind of spot check. So the investment.
And I know you're not a software specialist.
I am not.
Is FI capable of doing what we need it to do?
It should be. I mean, I think other counties are using it, but it's a newer software product. I mean, they converted from Hill Country, is that? And so they converted base types, and so it doesn't do some of the things like, I mean, I'm sure it means nothing to anybody but me, but you have a fund 0000, you can't print that. So, or you can't print it in summary, and I think that's a flaw. The bank-to-bank transfers, it will allow you to do a bank-to-bank, which will throw your funds, because each fund, like the general fund, the debt service fund, and the road and bridge funds, are self-balancing set of accounts. So if it allows you to do a one-sided transfer, you have two funds now that are off, or two funds. It just does some things that I think they need to correct. I know Brenda likes it. I'm not a big fan. So I just actually had another opportunity to bid on a county, and they said they were using FI, and I was like, no thanks. So I'm not a fan, but they were in the process of converting too, so we spent an enormous amount of time just trying to get the fund balances correct to the prior year. About 2 months of time between, I think, Kristen, Brenda, and us. We kind of pulled off the audit in February and came back in June. So I'm not a big fan, but, you know, that's again, I have worked in software. I did conversions in 99 to 2004, and, you know, I was a previous auditor already, so of course I had checklists, you know, so I think they probably don't have as a strong accounting or auditing team, is my gut feeling, but I don't know that for sure. So, the investments, so the quarterly investment reports, you guys actually prepare yours on a monthly basis, but they didn't include all the necessary information for the Public Funds Investment Act. Typically, it was bank statement only, so we recommend that the county review their investment practices and perform the necessary steps to comply with the act, to include text pool, text class CDs, and remaining investment accounts. And I know that Christina has has gone to the class now and is made some changes to this investment report. So it was corrected, I think, a couple months ago, right? Yes. So, highly material adjusting journal entries. We had to add 10.5 million addition to cash and investments. So entries of this nature have a high impact on the county and can significantly alter plans. I do want to point out that 4.9, or a little over, almost 5 million, was your ARPA funds. And that was kind of I think that entry in particular is why I'm not a fan of the 40 account, because I believe it showed in cash in the 40 account, but it did not show in cash in any of your fund accounts. So it kind of made your system, it threw your system off a little. And it was a manual entry that was initially done. So I think that you know, to get cash on the books, you typically do a manual entry when you set up a new bank account. And so I think that had a little to do with that, trying to set up a new bank account in FI. And then again, having what I'm going to call pooled cash. I don't know what you guys call it here, but typically in government, you have a pooled cash account that accounts for all of the transactions, but it also will perform another side of the entry, like a due to, due from, or a transfer. And so it shouldn't be, the money shouldn't be stuck in that 0000 account. And so that's another question we're going to go over with FI.
Okay, half of the 10.5 million was the ARPA account?
Mm-hmm.
What was the other?
It was a transfer that was not transferred. It wasn't transferred correctly. And that was 5.5 million. So accounting, and there were some other, you know, minor, but those were the two big ones. The accounting conversion process, the county's financial data was converted to a new system. Upon the transfer of data, many balances were transferred incorrectly. There was a little oversight by the county to verify that all balances had been transferred properly. So these inconsistencies were not corrected internally. And I think you kind of were relying on FI to correct these, and we should have been reviewing those because FI did not correct these.
So I want to make a statement to that particular one. So we went back to pull the data that was actually transferred. And the date in December when we did the transfer, or when the dump, I think is what they call it, the balances from HCSS were actually converted correctly. The problem was there were transactions that were performed after that into the fund balance by the former treasurer that caused those balances to get out of whack. We didn't catch it until we started until like February, when they came in and said, your balances are not matching. Because when we did the oversight, the review to make sure that the fund balances matched from FI, or from HCSS, everything matched at that time. So we had no reason to go through it every month to ensure that I didn't think to go through there to look at that. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that the balances did come over correctly from FI at the time that the conversion was made.
But they also, it looked like our audit adjustments were duplicated. And then audit adjustments from 2020 were also put in there that shouldn't have been put in there, so.
So, I'm just, okay, it just, being $10.5 million, that blows my mind. And it wasn't easy to catch?
Well, we knew you were off because when we first came, there's a $9.9 million dollar difference up in the corner on your bank reconciliations. We just didn't know what it was or where it was. And when you look in like that pooled account, we could see the cash of basically $4.9 million. And then there was, a transfer November of 2021 of the 5.5 that wasn't caught. So, I mean, those two balances kind of stood out, but the remaining differences didn't stand out as clearly. And the fund balances were very difficult because some of the numbers that came over, they reconciled, or I think they reversed some of them. So they brought over the 9/30/2020, and then they brought over in summary your October and November activity. So the summary of those activities, you had to go back and look at the Hill Country and bring it forward. And then there were entries made to the fund balance, which typically is never done in an accounting system. So it wasn't just, if we're talking about one thing, yes, it would have been easy to spot, but it was just quite a few things. Then the journal entries. I think we had the hardest time with the 9/30/2020 audit adjustments that are actually 2019 that we hadn't done. So they didn't pull out, or they didn't show up to us like we thought they should have. So, yeah.
But it's all corrected now.
Well, kind of. It's not all corrected now. They made our audit adjustments, but there were some adjustments made that, for instance, there were some voided checks and things like that have been done. So before I came up here, I was going through with Kristen to try to look at the fund balances and to see where they are. We made it through one fund, and Carl's down there with her now going through the other funds. We hope to have those finished by the end of the month. So, because there's been activity where you've caught your errors and recorded them, but we've actually corrected them in the 9/30/2021 audit, so you have to reverse those. The fiduciary funds, any other questions before I move on? The fiduciary funds activity, this is a new GASB that came into effect last year. And basically, the agency funds are going to have to be added to your trial balance for Brenda to keep track of. We're kind of going through a process right now to determine what to do. And I think that's something, if we don't finish today, we'll finish with Kristen. I think Amanda had an emergency, so we're going to,
The agency accounts are those accounts that the sheriff, the bank accounts that the sheriff holds.
Tax
the bank
assessor
accounts that
collector.
The tax assessor holds, and the accounts that the county clerk and the district clerk hold, which don't show up in our financial system, have never for the county as far as I know. We do get their monthly reports, so we're aware of the amounts that are in their bank accounts, but it's being suggested now that we actually put those entries into our system so that they appear on our.
well, and it's mainly because GASB
Yeah.
issued GASB 84 requiring it, whereas in years past, there was no requirement. So because those funds are really not the counties, they typically belong to others. You have your trustee accounts that the county clerk holds for, possibly minors or people who have a lawsuit, treasury of the court accounts. So they're really not your accounts. But what we had to do this year is go through and add them up manually and put them on the report.
Judge, I'm gonna have to leave.
Okay. Thank you. Hope everything works well.
So that completes that report. And then the communication with those charged with governance, that's a stapled letter. And it basically goes through your responsibilities and my responsibilities, or ours as auditors. Goes over the accounting estimates. So we had useful lives and depreciation for capital assets. We have allowance for uncollectibles for fines receivable and property. The net pension liability assumption for mortality rates and investment returns. And then OPEB liabilities for retiree insurance. We do have the planned scope of timing of the audit that was, I'll let you guys read, but we had no other significant difficulties encountered during the audit. We had several entries that we corrected, the adjustments to beginning balance in order to correctly state several balances. According to adjustment to reclass revenue and expense originally recorded to liability accounts. Adjustments to record the outstanding net court receivable at year end. That's an entry that we would typically make for you. Adjustments to record budgeted transfers and due to, due from. And adjustments to record various activity from bank recs not originally recorded. Adjustments to grant receivable to state the correct balance at year end. And adjustment to record ARPA funds to a cash account and defer the revenue until used. We had no disagreements with management. We did have a couple other funds or comments. The Public Funds Investment Act, we weren't in compliance. I understand that you are in compliance now. Your fixed asset tracking, typically this has been done by the auditor, really should be done, at the county level. So we're going to show Amanda how to record those fixed asset tracking, and Carl will do that. Grant activity, restricted revenues and liabilities. The grant revenues and expenses, as well as other restricted revenue accounts, were recorded as liabilities. This could result in revenues and expenses being understated and liabilities being overstated. Additionally, liabilities correctly recorded should be remitted to the state, may not be paid timely if we're commingling these accounts. So I think that one has been corrected during fiscal year 2022. The census testing. So GASB requires you to do census testing every year on your TCDRS accounts because if you remember, I told you that they do separate audits and actuarial studies. And those actuarial studies include the information like male, female, hire date, date you were born, a couple other dates. And last year, when we were here, we found some errors and I think this year we found two in those criteria. So for those criteria to be very accurate, you need to make sure that each employee is checking their criteria that's gone in. And I'll give you an example. My sister works for a state. She has an odd name. They had her in as a male. So, males in the actuarial study, are based on 75 years versus women for 85 years old. So there's a 10-year discrepancy in her actuarial study. And if you have a lot of those could affect your, your data. You want to make sure it's as complete as possible. So we recommend that you send something out and ask each employee to sign that they have verified their criteria, and then also do a spot check every year of maybe 10, 15 to see if those 10 or 15 are correct. You have inventory that's not properly tracked for Road and Bridge Fund. So there's no indication on your report the amount of inventory that you really truly have. So we recommend that on September 30th of every year that you perform an inventory. And I know that's very difficult because you have asphalt and it's not cement, but sand, maybe limestone, I don't know. And so those should be, looked at and come up with some number so you can put those on the financial statements. It depends.
What about material from TxDOT that the state gives us?
Yeah, that's a donated item.
Price on that since we don't pay for it.
You don't pay for it, but there's a value. So if you know what type of, what did they give you, rock, maybe?
Ground up asphalt.
Oh, so ground up asphalt, I would not put on your financial statements because there's an aftermarket for that, but I think you have to do some research and a lot of research.
What gravel they give us is ground up or dug up out of the road
Okay.
that they're discarding.
Right.
But we can find some value in it and use it, so I didn't know whether it needed to go in inventory or not.
Yeah, this would be typically a good, like if they sent you rock, 10 tons of rock, you would want to put that on your financial statements as a donated item or an in-kind and record the in-kind in the inventory.
Okay, they do some in-kind swap outs.
Okay. And then at the end of the year, you have, maybe something on your yard, your building rows. You may have a little amount, but if you have a large amount, we should be considering those in the financial statements.
What would you consider a large amount? Because I think that means something different to each one of them.
So,
Or 50 or 1,000?
Each precinct is different.
yeah, it depends on the cost of the item also. So,
Each of us is roughly the same.
right, but I mean, whether or not you want to put it on. So I can give, Brenda, I think our materiality for you guys for trivial last year was slightly like $80,000. So you'd probably want to do some type of report and either prove it was over 80 or prove it was under 80,000. But you have to look at it as not each of you, but combined, because it's a combined financial statement entry. So if you had 20,000, you had 15,000, but he had 80,000, we would want to put that on because otherwise it's going to misstate your financial statements.
And so one of the things that we don't do, and I know you and the judge talked about, is, because you noted about inventory being used for specific projects. I don't know if each of you are doing that. I don't know that there's a way, or unless we can just come up with a way to be able to track that, we would have to get that information from you for each of your projects in order to keep up with the inventory if we're gonna start tracking the inventory in our system. Because that's something the county's never done before. And I don't know how easy it would be for you guys to do that.
So that's why we suggested once a year, 9:30, And if you track your revenue just on that date, because that's what affects the financial statements. Because you currently don't have a system to say how much inventory you're using.
So would it be, because I know I provided you, I think a couple of the commissioners gave me their inventory at year end of 9/30/21. So are you saying that we would just put a value on each one of those, and that's what we would record?
Yes,
So
yes.
whatever's left at the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Because basically what, if it's 382,000, then your financial statements are overstated in expenses by 382,000, but understated in assets of 382,000.
So would the value be based on the amount that it cost the county at the time we purchased it, or the value of what the cost would be currently at 9?
Historical cost. So what you purchased those materials at.
And you consider all material, or just, because like he mentioned, millings or ground up asphalt. Some of us use black base, some of us use chip rock, some use this, some use that. So, I mean,
It's all inventory.
we're gonna have a list of everything. If that's what I'm hearing. If that's what you want. We
Well,
don't need a secretary to do all this work.
It's actually not what I want, it's what GASB requires.
Just wait till the end of the year and do it.
That's fine.
Yeah. Just do it once on 9/30, because that's going to affect your financial statements.
Well, and I don't mean to belabor this, but isn't it a little bit, I guess, inaccurate? Because, I mean, let's just say that,
It's an estimate.
I mean, it is an estimate. I might have, say, today, 100 yards of milling sitting in the yard. But then I might use some of that, then I might get 400 yards from TxDOT. I mean, it doesn't really account for I mean, I know it gives you a number of value of something that was sitting in your yard on that
Yeah.
day, but that's really.
And that's all it is.
it's
Yeah,
expected to be.
yeah. Yep.
But then not account for the material, the rest of the material that's bought during the year? Or that's just?
Right, because, I mean, see, you have to define the project, because, I mean, we go out and work on the road, well, we might order a couple of truckloads of material to use on that road, and it never hits our yard.
Right.
Because this year, I've only had 15 truckloads delivered to my yard, and I've probably, bought 120 or 30 truckloads.
Which is fine if you're using 100% on that project. Yeah. It's kind of like the question you asked me, I call it riprap. I don't know what you guys call the ground. Okay, it calls it, yeah. So, if you have a lot of that sitting in your yard, I'm not going to count that. But something you purchased, I would, or if it's something that is considered of value. I know that riprap is valuable to you, but it's typically not
We
on.
have a price in our material hauling and materials for riprap.
Oh, okay.
vendors. So, I mean, it's.
You could do that.
I have material from TxDOT that, like during the snowstorm, they were very gracious and gave me a large amount of shiprock back because they ran out of rock to put down on the roads and the bridges, and I had it, and they gave me probably 3 times what I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
use, so. And they didn't charge me, it was just
In kind.
in kind, yeah. I helped them out, and they helped me out triple-fold.
Yeah, see, TxDOT also provides us with signs if we ask for them.
Do you have a lot of signs on your yard?
Right now, today I do.
Yeah, now I
I
do.
bought a bunch of them, and they've given us some, and we're
Okay.
putting them up. I mean,
So get them all put up before 9:30 so you don't have to put them on your inventory. That's not only in GASB, this is also a FASB,
Right, but
Financial Accounting
you had
Standards
mentioned
Board.
signs up to that point, signs are kind of a pain in the neck, but.
Yeah. Any inventory that you typically hold on to?
Well, that's what I say. I mean, like, TxDOT came to us and said, hey, y'all want to order signs? We all said, yeah. So I got, I think, 10 stop signs and 10 something else, and he got stop signs and something else, and he got something else, and
barricades
Commissioner
and
Wild, yeah,
signs.
whatever, so I mean, it's a hodgepodge, I mean, you know, some of those signs go up right away, some of them, you know, we get an extra one for when they're stolen, whatever. Well, I mean,
We just have to look at what we pay for them when we order them again.
Oh, no, I
Well,
was thinking
but-
the ones that were donated to you.
but I don't remember when TxDOT gave me my signs, I had to sign for them, and I brought that, gave it to y'all. I don't remember if there was value on there
Okay.
or not.
I'll look.
There might be,
Okay.
because they have a certain set amount in their budget that and they're pretty good about, hey, y'all got whatever, $5,000 left this year, what do y'all want for, you know?
For Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I think this fiscal year, they all had $30,000 allotted for the 4 road districts.
But I got more from them this year than I did last year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
I grew up, my parents, or my dad and his family owned a concrete pipe. So we did, all of us did inventory 1231 every year for a long, long time. So I know it is a pain, but it really should be done to put on your financial statements.
The question was whether we needed to count the material that we didn't pay for but got from Texas.
Yeah, if you have a price and it's a large amount, I would probably put it on your financial statements, but I would let Brenda know that it was not purchased, because the accounting treatment on something that's not purchased is very different from the accounting treatment for something that's purchased.
Okay.
The general ledger accounts not reconciled to underlying subsidiary accounts and records. You're charged with maintaining records of the county financial transactions, including the GL. We noted some balance sheet accounts are not reconciled to the supporting subledgers. I think we've discussed this, and they've begun the process of doing this. The allocation of ad valorem tax, we did have an issue with the actual ad valorem. And I think we kind of went over how to correct that and in the meeting we had on that Friday.
Yes, so what we found was and Christina may be able to speak more to this, but what we discovered is that the allocations were allocated correctly according to what we budgeted, based on those allocations that are on the cover sheet of your budget. What they recognize as allocated is the amount that's actually collected. And that's where, Christina and Mike, who was the other auditor, compared numbers. She went through every month and said, this is what we collected. The percentage is correct based on what we budgeted, and then an adjustment was made to adjust the percentage based on what was actually collected versus what was budgeted, so.
Is this like the collection rate, like the 95%?
It has something to do with that, but for example, so if you, on your cover sheet, like on the third page down here where it says, breakdown of Wilson County taxes. So like Road and Bridge Fund gets .0357 for, precinct 1. Well, every time the tax assessor submits what's collected, the treasurer's office then, allocates that percentage to that fund. And when they did the numbers, they did it based on what was actually collected. So if we collected more or less, then the percentage was gonna change. So the allocation was done correctly based on what was budgeted, based on these numbers here. And so after comparing them to what was actually collected, that is what the auditors are.
Okay, so when it's collected and it's turned over to the treasurer, every time it happens, each one of these, the precinct 1, 2, 3, and 4, they get this .0357, and the library gets .024 every time? Okay, and that's what's happening? Okay.
Received correctly. The funds do get allocated according to that percentage.
And what would be changing of anything? The percentages would be the same
Yeah.
on every one.
These changed, when we reallocated, when we redistricted in January.
Okay,
So, but any other time, they won't change. Because those are percentages based on your allocation of miles. And I think it was weighted miles that we did, so.
The only thing that changed was road and bridge, basically.
So, okay, so if you hit, so what happens if your ad valorem comes under revenue or over? What happens to that money? So if I'm supposed to get $1 million and they only pay, let's just say, make it easy, 900,000, I'm short 100,000, am I supposed to be short 100,000 in my budget?
Yep.
But if I get 1.1, then I got $100,000 more to spend.
Because you're probably collecting delinquent tax, yes. So that delinquent tax, though, will come over at the rate that it was when it was
Is that a
delinquent.
budget adjustment when that happens?
It goes into their fund balance, right?
It goes into your fund balance once it's collected, but that would hit AR, for instance, accounts receivable, because have this running total of accounts receivable. So you'll see it as a reduction of accounts receivable, not an increase to revenue. At the end of the year, I think, during the year, you see it as revenue. We adjust that at the end of the year.
just out of curiosity, it's not a question for you, it's for Brenda, Christina. When we collect delinquent accounts, is there any, you handle it any different than collecting money? Collecting the regular?
Yeah, I was gonna say that kind of comes. I mean, it's reported, differently as we collect it, but no, when it's turned over, it's all in one.
Okay, and then, and the same thing, the same percentages?
So we do have a line item though in the budget for delinquent taxes. So it does hit a separate line item, but it's all recorded as ad valorem.
I have one more comment, and it was the function of the county auditor's office. So technically, she's required to do an audit each quarter on each department, basically. And, they did have a conversion going on. And this doesn't include just cash counts. So we need to go ahead and get back on track on those audits quarterly. I would be happy if there was 2 a year. This is where a lot of counties struggle because they just don't have time and the manpower, and it also takes each department away from their work. So again, if we could do 2 a year, that would be fantastic, and then 2 cash counts. And that's all I have. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Basically, the county's in good shape when you get down.
Financially, you're in good shape, yeah. I think we have some issues we need to address, and I think you're capable of doing that, so.
So have we got the new accounting deal figured out?
Yeah, I mean, we're still working through it. We do have a meeting on September 20th, all of us do. So that, because they've never spoken directly with the FI staff and the senior programmer, so I thought it would be a good idea if we all had a meeting, so that way they could speak to each other directly and share some of the same terminology and figure out what it is that Debbie can tell them what they need, FI can tell them what they can provide, because I do think that a lot of this could possibly be stemming from just lack of knowledge. So once FI gets a true understanding of what's needed from our external audits, that they would be able to provide, and teach us how to do that.
So everybody's on the same page.
Correct. And I've had this discussion with the executive director of financial ensuring that they do everything that they can to provide what we need.
Are other counties having the same problem that are on FI?
Most counties have similar issues during the first year of conversion. It's usually, their Grimes County, and Atascosa is actually about to convert to FI. So I'll probably be spending some time over there with Tracy and that group as well, to hopefully alleviate some of, issues that we had. So the first year is usually tough. In retrospect, when I spoke with FI last week, they, looking back, stated that we probably shouldn't have gone live in December of '21, because we ended the year 9/30, and we were for 3 months recording in the old system and the new system, and doing the conversion at the same time. And so in retrospect, she said we probably should have just waited until a new year, knowing that we had, duplicate transactions and things like that were being done. So it's a learning process, a learning experience. But as far as the actual services that they provide, and I won't speak for Christina, but for my office, the functionality of the software is 10 times ahead from what we were doing. I mean, it was very antiquated, the system that we were using. It's just a matter of the continuous learning, so.
Is Atascosa on Hill Country?
Encode is,
Fair warning.
yeah, Encode is, the system that probably the majority of Texas cities, counties use, or MIP.
On the treasurer's side, it is a learning curve. There were things that were mentioned in the beginning that we're aware that would happen, and like you said, the bank-to-bank transfer, that wasn't really taking place correctly until we discovered that. So the funds were there, they just were not within that certain line item, causing AGs so that money can be put properly in the fund,
I have a
things like that. But it's just a learning curve, and we're
question on the conversion. Y'all said y'all were still using Hill Country from the last quarter. Okay, so y'all were entering stuff in Hill Country and then still entering it again in FI?
Not us.
Okay, so what happened is, and that explains part of the 10.5. So once we went live in middle December, what I was aware of until I transitioned to the other position outside of that office, from December 15th till the end of the year, we were recording everything in Hill Country and FI to keep everything, because at the time when we converted, everything was matching. So in order to keep everything consistent and match, you would record your entry into Hill Country and you record it into FI. So the balances, everything was tracked properly. That was not the case. That's probably the issues that we came across. The 5.5 million was recorded in Hill Country, but not recorded in FI, and that's how we just figured that out. But then we went officially, starting January, with payroll and everything on FI, and did not do anything else in Hill Country.
Okay, because this conversion, it lasted months? It wasn't like, okay, they come in and they can convert all of this over, and then you go to the new software, and maybe you have to review something in the old software, but everything was still using both softwares? Is that what was happening?
You have to finish that year out, yes. You wanted to finish instead of midway, to finish December. You wanted to at least get the rest of the 15 days. And then that's when we stopped at the end, because of your payroll processes, everything, your W-2s, things like that. You wanted to finish out your year. That month, I should say, not the year.
It was also because there was lack of training from that office when we had all of the training here in FI in October. we were leery about the treasurer's office going 100% to FI for those 3 months because there was limited training. And that was something that I discussed with all of you.
Limited training from FI or?
From the former treasurer. And so we were leery about transactions being recorded incorrectly in FI because we didn't want it to turn out wrong. It didn't turn out wrong.
So have we got the training up to speed? Or?
Oh, yeah, that, you have to keep in mind, this was from 2020.
Yeah.
And so since June of '21, when Chris,
How long was the conversion? You know, I have been through some conversions, not with financial software, but other software. And usually over the weekend, you leave Friday and they convert everything. You come back Monday and you're on a new software.
Well, so that, part of the problem was your chart of accounts was so voluminous on Hill Country that they took 5 and 6 accounts and would combine them and transfer them over, which typically doesn't happen a lot. In, like, if you're going through an Odyssey transfer or other types of transfers. So the crosswalk from Hill Country to FI was very tedious and cumbersome because you were taking, 3-4 accounts and combine them, right.
items to go through. So the conversion itself, data into the software, data into the new system didn't take long. It was the verification and ensuring that all the all of these charts of accounts that you see in this budget, hundreds of line items that needed to be reviewed and make sure that they were titled properly, that the departments had what they needed. I mean, it was just a lengthy process, so.
I'm not a fan of the way they did it. When I did it, we, like you said, cut off one day, and then we weren't doing duplicate entry because the duplicate entry takes a lot of time, and you're not available to go back and review because there's not enough time in the day. So, I would say you want to tell Tracy, cut off 9:30 and that's it. But there shouldn't have been as big of an issue with payroll because they should have been able to transfer that over as of 9:30, and then the W-2s could have been easily performed.
And that was one of the other reasons as well, because we were in December and we needed, we were issuing W-2s and 1099s out of Hill Country, and so we still had to operate out of Hill Country through December 31st. That's why Christina was saying the 15 days, because all of the payroll data was, for the 12 months, was in Hill Country. And so FI, we couldn't produce W-2s out of FI because the payroll had been performed in Hill Country.
And they brought over things in summary rather than detail in the payroll.
So we got all the W-2s and everything out through Hill Country, so.
And the bank recs are up to date, just to kind of clarify, like you said, that's been fixed. So, of course, this was from October of 2020 to September of 2021. So when I did come into office and was appointed June of 2021, I did start with December. And of course, from there, as soon as I was appointed, so July, y'all got like two bank recs in that month. So I'm happy to say when the fiscal year that we're in now, from October of 2021, I did have last fiscal year reconciled, just not to the trial balance because we were trying to find those issues. But I did get everything reconciled to find that there was no fraud being done in the bank, and everything's up to date now in the bank recs. That's one thing.
I have 2 questions. When was the conversion date supposedly the date,
December of '21.
December of '21,
December of 20.
I mean, December of '20, I'm sorry, December of '20.
December of '20. And we weren't converted until December of '21, or it was still,
No,
No.
they were
but
converted.
they were still y'all were still making dual entries and back and forth
Of
and.
20, of
Yeah.
2020.
Because this is the 9/30/21 audit,
Yeah, this
so
was-
Yes.
we're a year
Yep.
behind, yeah.
Right. So this was of December of 2020. And what Christina's referring to, and you guys were made aware of this in court when I provided the audits of the treasurer's office of the bank reconciliations not being performed during that period. This is the same period that they're auditing. So this is just a refresher to y'all of what had already been reported to y'all back then.
And what should have been done is you actually should have gone back to October's bank statements and reconciled those instead of going back to December.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because October was done, October, November were done in Hill Country, reconciled, but yes, they weren't, the way the conversion came up, you're correct.
October, November of 2020.
Correct.
Are we confused yet?
It is confusing.
Confused.
Yeah,
It's
no,
the
no.
time- The time period that's causing everyone to be confused,
Yeah.
because you have to keep in mind that this was a period of October 1, 2020 to September 30th of '21 that this is reflecting. So we've gone now an entire year where the majority of all this stuff had already been addressed and is addressed and being corrected or has already been corrected, so. We're just playing catch-up on the reporting side.
Any other questions?
Some of this was all coded wrong back in 2020
Or transactions
transaction.
not being recorded
correctly,
properly.
for whatever reason it was.
Correct.
But there were some after that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And there were, I mean, you got your ARPA
Between
funds.
that period from
Yes.
October
Yeah.
2020 to September 30th, '21.
Yeah.
Things just went wild then.
But it's on the right page now.
Well, we're
getting there.
We're not there yet. It's still going. I'm hoping we do. Debbie, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Moving right along. To agenda item 15, Eva S. Martinez, County Clerk, minutes.
Yes, sir. We did have them covered.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fredola, second by Commissioner Fowle. We accept the minutes as presented. We have any questions, comments, changes? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, agenda item 16, Christina Moose, interim county treasurer, financial report.
No, that was added, but normally, just like before, I will continue to give my monthly reports on the second Commissioner's Court of the month.
Okay, agenda item 17, Jalen T. Butterford, human resource general specialist, payroll and personnel changes.
I'm going to keep it short today. So Catherine Ibram was hired as a dispatcher for the Sheriff's Department, making $15.38 per hour or $32,000 annually effective September 5th, 2022. And Jason Hines resigned from his position as a narcotics investigator for the Sheriff's Department effective September 9th, 2022.
That was short and to the point.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 18, Brenda El Trevino, County Auditor. Bills. Yes, sir.
Under payroll, I just have one question on the projected, I should have asked it earlier. When y'all give everybody a $2 pay raise, is there a printed amount for each position projected pay, salary for the year?
It's in the budget. The printed amounts by department are in the budget. Yes.
For each
Yes, and you can find that on our website.
commissioner?
It's in the budgets. Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it won't reflect until October 1.
Yeah,
Correct.
of next year.
Yes, well, this coming October 1.
Presented to you today, sorry.
The what?
The signature sheet I just gave you.
What did I do with it? Stuck it on the bottom of something. Oh, here it is.
Sorry about that. Total bills presented to you today are $426,086.56. Two of them that are pretty large are just annual. One is for our annual net data invoice, and the other one is our TAC property and auto insurance that are in there that are due, so. One is like $77,000, the other one's like $66,000.
What did that external audit cost us?
Well, we haven't paid it yet, so it'll probably be in the next one. It's probably somewhere in the range of $45,000. It's usually about that much every year.
We had a contract with them, whatever it was, and it was,
Yeah, I need to go back and look at it. I don't remember. I think last year it was $30,000 was last year, so I want to say that they increased it by like $9,000 for this current year.
I'm sure they'll use it
I've got
all
one
up,
for you.
whatever the contract was, and then some.
yep.
They're in here. Oh, okay.
They don't ever seem to come in under the bid.
Let's see, but do you want me to take all of Commissioner Wiley's stuff for his box? Thank you.
make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Pardola. We approve the bills. Are there any questions? Additions, deletions, changes?
Need more
Discussion?
money.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Yeah, signatures.
Okay. Moving right along to agenda item number 19 at 11:14, we're adjourned.